Well, hello, my friends. Here we are back again. We are the Oneness Project. This is Sharon.
Hello, I'm on audio today.
Yeah, she's on audio today. Sometimes she's not feeling up to doing or just wanting to do or not able to do a video with me. And that's great. We'd rather have her than not have in video, that's for sure. And I'm Steve, and you are you, and we are the Oneness Project. We've been doing a lot of videos, and it seems we have a small following of people that like to watch all the time, and that's what this is all about. It's beautiful. I love this message for whoever out there appreciates it. One thing I did notice, though, doing these videos is that it kind of reminded me of when I was going to a Christian church, an evangelical church, and I would go to church and everybody would be like just happy all the time. And there would be, I always had this, I had a lot of the time a feeling that everybody's okay except me, but I would put on the same face they would. It's like, I didn't want anybody to know that I was going through difficulties or what have you, because subconsciously or maybe even partially consciously, there was this kind of idea that because we have Christ, that we can handle anything or everything's okay, or things couldn't possibly be too bad or even go wrong at all, for that matter. Listening to messages, and then listening to messages, a lot of the messages that I received were that you can beat this or go over this with Christ, whatever this may be in your mind. And it almost was a feeling of shame sometimes that, hey, you know what, I'm not feeling well a lot of the time or in this position, but I didn't really feel like I could express it. A lot of the messages there, sometimes the message would say, go ahead and express it, but it almost felt like there was a contradiction at the same time. And very seldom did I ever do that. I usually just put on the face and kind of like to put on an air that I'm okay with everybody else. And watching the videos that I did, I was like, I kind of felt like these videos were sort of saying the same thing. Like, wow, this concept of peace. If we do this, we'll have peace all the time, blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to say now that no, I don't have peace all the time. There are people that I want to strangle sometimes. And there are situations where I just have my F you moments, if you allow me to use that type of terminology and stuff. And it's still there. How about you, Sharon? Did you go through something like that in your experience in the past, religious stuff that you've
Oh,
experienced?
yes, I did. As you know, I'm from the Mormon Church, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and yes, I spent 21 years in that church. And the very first time that I entered a congregation, I experienced what you felt, when you were in church. Just this thought that everyone in the congregation seems so perfectly happy,
Mm-hmm.
just perfect families and husbands and wives, just, everything looked so perfect. And I really aspired to that. But unfortunately, shortly thereafter, I discovered that um, a lot of the people were just putting their best forward. And with that said, I want to say that I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that um, when you go on social media or out in the public, you ought to put your best forward. But what Steve is trying to say, that we don't want our listeners here on the Oneness Project channel to feel like when we put our best face forward on these videos, that we don't experience suffering and anger and frustrations and even depressions and all of that. We go through the same experiences that anyone else goes through in the flesh. We're having this experience, and it in this life, it's not always easy or not always fun. The difference is, if you're ready for me to get into that, Steve, I'll try to be very brief, is that whereas before I didn't have a way of escape, even though I was Christian, and Mormons are Christian, by the way, take it from someone who spent 21 years in that church. As a Christian, I knew about Jesus and Heavenly Father and all of that. It still wasn't enough to help me overcome the hard times to the extent where I could, how should I say it? I couldn't overcome it quick enough. I had to rely on the same technique I did before I became Christian, which is wait it out. Something bad happens, I get angry, I get frustrated, and then I just had to wait until time resolved my anger. But the difference is, now that I understand the oneness, for me, it's like a roadmap to home, and home being peace. So when I get into these situations where I feel angry or I feel frustrated, or all these, negative experiences come up, I know the way home. I know how to get back to peace. And I don't have to suffer. I can eliminate the ing off of the word suffer.
Yeah.
And just suffer, like I always say, when the wind blows against me, I will, I'll experience that pressure and have that negative experience. But once the wind stops, I can straighten back up and life goes on. And the oneness message, or the oneness understanding, has done that for me. And boy, it is my pearl of great price, or my drug of choice, you would say.
Yeah, drug of choice is a great way of putting it, or pearl of great price, I guess you'd say. Yeah. I think we can make a pretty good, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I think just about everybody, if not everybody, I'll go as far as to say quite likely everybody has a drug of choice that brings them to their peace, whatever that may be. And if, or at least some semblance of peace, something that they're looking for, that striving for, that brings them peace. I've had many of those. I
Mhm.
made it quite clear about alcohol here, but that's not the only thing. Work has been that. Working out has been that. Uh, Television has been that. Several things have been this place where I can go to feel a sense of neutrality, um, where I can't. None of these things really brought lasting peace. It was usually pretty quick, like quick fix ways to feel peace for some time. And when I mean peace in this sense, is where I just wasn't in a serious state of anxiety. Um, However, those things would usually bring highs and lows and all kinds of stuff that really wasn't peace at all. Some of those things was to bring an elation. Elation feels like peace when I'm in it, if I'm really elated or at a high end. But I found that my consciousness or myself can't stay in there. Right? I get exhausted, tired. It's exhausting. And but to bring them back to where the topic today, now that I have this oneness understanding, yes, I mean, just this past week, I've had experiences where I really was pissed. Like, I just wanted to strangle someone, or myself, because of, things in my past coming back to haunt me, or like calling me, haunt me. And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be in this situation. It was just frustrating, and yeah, still going into that. I still have like aggravations where, um, and sometimes I don't reach for this oneness concept to find peace. I reach for something different, and I just say, screw it, this is what I want right now. whatever, right? I'm
Yeah.
freaking human still now. And
Mhm.
I would not doubt that thoughts, really horrible thoughts, might, and people might call them horrible, but thoughts that I used to think of a lot came with me. I used to be suicidal and want to end this. It seemed like a viable option to me at the time
Mhm.
because of the distress that I might go through. And for me, coming to this oneness message, the more that I, um, what's the word, utilize it, I suppose,
Yeah, that's it.
live in this concept to experience it, the more it seems to, the time seems to close a little bit, in which I realize that I'm going to go back to that. Maybe
Yeah.
at this point, I'm not seeing going back to that right now,
Mhm.
but I know I'm going to go back to that because it's in there that is like the Pearl of Great Price, which we did a video on. And by the way, all of you out there, if you've listened to this long, it really helps if we subscribe and like these videos to get our algorithm in YouTube, so more people can experience this feeling, this belief of peace. And there's a lot of people that I know that were just like me, have been just like me, that couldn't find it. It's not there. And I think that's what we're trying to say. It's when it's not there, when there's not this idea or concept there to go, wow, to have that peace, to have that time, extended time of um, peace, that
Mhm.
is, it's very difficult. And yes, but I go through extended times outside of the peace. Absolutely no doubt about it. When I have people that are in my life that, or if I do something, my biggest one for me is if I do something that negatively affects my life and I go, what the, you know, those
Mhm.
are my deepest times where I go outside of peace, to even the point of depression. And I just go to thoughts where, like, do I even want to be here? And all of that nonsense is in nonsense. It's truth. It's real. It's a thought process. It's something. It's out of peace, I suppose you would say, but it's part of the process. And damn rights I go there. Absolutely do I go there. Or have I gone through thoughts of like this COVID thing and stress and anxieties? Of course I have. I'm just as human as anybody else. Or other life things that are going on in social media and stuff that make us afraid or scared of being in a comfortable place in our lives. Yes, absolutely, no doubt about it. And there may be a time I'm going to do a video here where I'm in that. And I'm just going to come out and say, you know what? I am. Yes, I go there. I do that. No doubt about it. And being the oneness message, I love the way you say, Sharon, is not about not going there, because it's just about having I love this the way you say it, a home to go to eventually, and being able to, maybe it shortens our period of being in that place, so we're
That's
not constantly in the place. Is that a good way of putting it?
yes. It's not that you don't suffer, but you definitely shorten. So you're not suffering. I don't know a better way to say that than to take the ing off of the word suffer. You will suffer in this experience. You suffer, circumstances will arise, but you don't have to keep suffering. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what having a roadmap home does for you. It takes you out of suffer and brings you to peace. But as you were talking, I was wondering to myself, why is it that the simple message of the love of God or Jesus didn't do it for me back in the day when I was, associated with a religious organization? Why didn't just that do it for me? Why didn't that thought bring me to peace immediately, like the oneness message does? And I think, it's because I, at that time, didn't know for sure whether Jesus or God knew exactly what I was experiencing. I was told that they love me and they understand me, but I didn't I didn't they I didn't have a way of knowing that for sure. So I couldn't rely on them 100%. Okay? But in the oneness message, I now understand that every experience, and we got this from the same Bible that I studied, that every experience we're having is a memory, and it is a memory of a life that Jesus himself lived. So I now know for sure that the experience I am having now, good, bad, indifferent, sad, every experience, he understands it because he lived it and is reliving that experience again through me, through what I call me. But it's really the one being.
Yeah.
It is the one Jesus, or the one Christ, the one God, the one being that is living once again. He lives. The scripture says he lives. Well, I'm here to tell you he does. He lives as you, and he lives as me, and as Steve, and as all of us. So he definitely knows what we're going through, because it's him going through it. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Geez, why didn't I find it then at that time? Um, to me, it goes back to where I started to find it, or at least know that it existed, was through the teachings of Christ that said that the fruit of your knowledge, or the fruit of the tree or knowledge, will produce this unconditional love, will produce unconditional love. I've gone through these scriptures before. You can see it in our previous videos where we talk about that. But, and I realized that whatever I was believing right now certainly wasn't producing that. So, but the great thing about it was it let me know that it was there. So, and I identified with this part. This was like the beginning of me coming to this oneness understanding. Was this made sense to me? What we believe certainly does create our actions. What we do has almost everything to do about what we believe. How we act towards others, how we act to ourselves, how we act, period. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm going to live in a peace that Jesus seems to be expressing, I can find that by believing something and seeing if it produces peace. And if it doesn't, then it's not true. That's not the truth that we're looking for. That's not what we desire. So why didn't it work back then? Well, because many things. The hell doctrine certainly didn't bring peace to me. People burning and stuff like that, and the message of the cross that has been projected on the masses, where Jesus came down to satisfy this God's wrath, and that he was tortured so he could be appeased. That certainly didn't bring peace to me. That sounds like a monster, and all of these things. So through this, I started to decipher, okay, you know what? I'm not acting very well to people. That was the other thing. I don't know about you, but when I was in this mind frame or belief system, I was very judgmental of people. And
Oh gosh, yes, you can't be in religion and not be judgmental. It is impossible. There's just no way around it. If you believe in a hell and a heaven, you have to be judgmental,
yeah,
because you're told that some people are going to go to hell. And, like I told you in an earlier video, I thought my own daughter was doomed because she rebelled against
so did
religion.
I. So did I. Both of my daughters and most of the people on the planet. And of course, because of that thought process, you can try as you might, you're going to treat people I'm going to treat people differently if I think that. And the whole mantra behind what I was learning was that our job was to save these people from this place. Okay. And what I eventually started seeing is the people that were leaders in this church, I didn't see peace. I saw people that were in constant state of euphoria and anxiety, and like one side or the other, trying to bring people to this, either deep sadness. We go to their prayer meetings where they're speaking in tongues, and they would actually have their eyes closed and gritting their teeth and, oh, Jesus. Well, that's not peace, man. There's nothing peaceful about that at all. So I felt like I was stayed in a constant state of anxiety. But the great thing about this, again, is it provided a contrast for me to be able to find what peace was. I think that's the big thing. What is peace? What is peace? We know inside of it what it is. It's a place of just contentment and knowing, I suppose. That's peace. other other forms of spirituality have call it Om, or forms of meditation that brings you to this place of the present. And there's great teachers that talk about being in the present and being in all of these places. I find that this oneness message that I am you, you are me, and that we are all one. And whatever you do, I've done to you, and so on and so forth, like that, leaves me in that present peace. It takes away offenses for others and for myself and all of that, and allows me to stay in this place that I really like the way you refer it to as home. In the kingdom, there are many mansions. They're homes. It's a home, peace and love and joy and unconditional love. Right? We like to say unconditional love because love doesn't necessarily mean we're in peace.
Exactly. I thank you for saying that, Steve, because Steve knows I have difficulty with the word love, the way we express it and the way we understand it in our flesh form. Yes, so it is that unconditional love that we're talking about. When you're experiencing peace, you have no judgment.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't have to be good for you to love them.
Exactly.
You just, because they're you know that who they are. They are the one being experiencing life in their time, and we'll get into this maybe at another time, in their own worlds, literally. And we're experiencing these memories of ourselves. So it's wonderful. I'm glad you chose this topic today, Steve, because yes, I for one do not want anyone to feel like, I have arrived in heaven and there's this place in heaven where you're only experiencing what is it? What is heaven like? I'm not even sure. It's a place where you're supposed to never have another tear.
Yeah.
Never shed another tear, never feel anger anymore, and suffering anyway. Well, that's not what I'm experiencing. What I am experiencing in this oneness life that I'm living is I'm experiencing both. You might say if heaven is a place of peace where there's no tears, yes, I experience that. But I also experience my flesh. So because I'm both. The Father is never without the Son. Okay, so I'm flesh and I'm spirit, and I experience both, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with experiencing the contrast, because we speak many times of the contrast and the necessity. If we are to experience joy, we must have the opposite. If we have to experience peace, we must have the opposite. And that's what we're doing. And it's all okay. All is well.
Like the scripture says, there's a time for war, there's a time for this, there's a time for that. All of that is, and then there's a time for peace. Now, I guess what I would be saying is that my outside of peace is just not as severe as it ever was before and not as often. And that seems to happen less and less for different reasons. And it's like, well, at one time it was pure continuous. I was in a constant state of anxiety all the time. And I only actually realized that now, didn't realize at the time that that was the case. It was looking back, I realized that I was in a constant state of anxiety. Might have
Mhm.
been times when I was in less anxiety, and I guess that's what I would have described as my peace at the time. But now looking back on it, I was never in a state of peace. It was always in a state of euphoria or a state of depression, or somewhere in between there. But I would pass by the peace like all the time. Oh, that's not going to work for me.
And we get so good at pretending sometimes that we really pretend ourselves into feeling like we are at peace. But it's because just so we're such good actors that we've convinced ourselves.
Yeah,
But yeah, but
and
on
I. Sorry about
mhm,
that.
go ahead.
Sorry about
No,
that.
go ahead, Steve. Please go ahead.
I
Sorry.
found that one of the things that we were talking about drugs before, and again, this is not for anybody out there. I'm not pro or against or what have you, but I would smoke marijuana. I would do smoke pot on at times, and that I guess would keep me in a sense of neutrality that was probably as close to peace now as I can understand. I understand why people smoke it, but
Mhm.
it's very short lived. And then I would find that it, it wouldn't continue. And it's a very good drug, I find, to reveal the lack of peace outside of the oneness understanding. You know,
Mhm.
because it fabricates a peace and then makes you want to keep on recreating it over and
For
over.
some people, Steve, it didn't do that for me the one time I tried it when I was younger.
Oh yeah,
It
I
just made
know.
me laugh uncontrollably.
Yeah,
But I do understand for some people it helps them, calm down or
yeah,
uh so so I've heard, but yeah,
yeah, and
but
other
that's
drugs
not a
too,
real thing. Yeah.
over the counter drugs, or like I said, alcohol or whatever the case may be. And we mentioned television. I said work or food or all kinds of stuff. These addictions that we reach for our peace on a consistent basis are really good signals to say, hey, you know what? Maybe try this drug.
Yeah.
Maybe give it a
Yes.
shot because I highly recommend it. You take your drug of choice. And this is the other thing with this. We're not telling anybody what to do here. This is just relaying an experience that we found, that we love for ourselves, that we have found this mechanism seems to be the best form of peace that I have ever found. Maybe you'll find a much better one. I don't know, but
Yeah,
it seems.
please share it with us if
Please,
you
yeah, please
another
share with us
way.
where you find your peace. That would be
Yeah.
great. I'd love to see a lot of comments in the comment section about
Mhm.
where people find their peace, and maybe we can add that into this the oneness. I'm sure
Mhm.
there's much more that can be added.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. Well, this has been. I'm glad we got this off my. I got this off my chest because it's something that I've been sort of thinking about for a while, and I wanted to really be able to say it. That you know, one of these. There's been. I'll say this at the end to finish this off. Some of these videos I've delayed because I've been out of peace, and I didn't want to go on camera with being out of peace, really, which is this face that we're talking about. We're like putting out a good face that everything is fine and all that. That's where it comes from. So I hope I'm intending that as we go on here, that I'll be able to go on the camera and be at a peace and be vulnerable and say, I'm not in a good place right now.
And get
And
that out the way and then get back to being nice again. Well, folks,
yeah,
I have to tell you, when I come on camera, I want my hair to be done and my makeup to be on. So
yeah,
that's why I'm not on camera today. But yeah, we try to put our best forward. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Do the best you can with life. It's all good. It is
yeah.
all good.
If you're putting your good, it's a sign of respect to the people around you too, right? To put our best foot forward. So it's nothing bad. None of it's bad. We've talked about that for a long
Exactly.
time. This was a wonderful chat, Sharon. Thank you very much for sharing again, like usual. And we will see all of you again, I'm sure. Please comment and like and subscribe. We love to grow this and have more people and more talk. You can also, we have a Oneness Project Facebook page you can go check out. I also have something called the Oneness Spirit Guide, where I we have great conversation. I do lives there. You can go check us out on that. Anyway, any form that you'd like to be able to engage with us, get in the comment section, let us know, let us talk. Maybe you can come on here one day with us. That would be awesome. Until
Yeah.
next time, have a great day and lots of love to you.
Bye bye.